Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. Brother Brand Ambassador Angela Wolf here, and another great show for you today. I'm so excited. So we have another panel of educators. You better go grab your notebook because there's going to be a lot of tips here for getting started quilting. National Quilting Month, right? So I cannot wait for this. If you've never been here before, say hi, say where you're from. We are live streaming on Brother Sewing, YouTube and Facebook pages. I can see all your comments. And be sure to tell Brother how much you love the shows, and then we'll keep them rolling. All right, so as you roll in, go get your notebook. I'll grab the girls. We'll be right back. All right, I'm so excited for this show. Hi, everyone. I've got Kim, Barbara, and Jane, brother educators. If you've never been here before, they're fabulous educators, and today they're going to be giving you tips for quilting, kind of tips and tricks, and how to make your botches turn out fabulous. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, so in case someone's new to the show and maybe have not met any of you, Kim, why don't you say where you're from, how long you've been with Brother, and we'll go all the way around. Jane and then Barb.
Okay, I'm Kim Montagnese. I'm in Amherst, Ohio, which is on the shore of Lake Erie, right in between the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Cedar Point, the roller coaster capital of the world. And I've been with Brother, gosh, I don't know, maybe 8 years, something like that. But I've been quilting and developing my quilt techniques and teaching nationally for about 15 years. But it's great to be with Brother. It's kind of like a dream come true.
Awesome. Well, and we love your work, Kim. We love your work. All right, Jane.
Hi, Jane Olsen, and I live in the great state of Maine, and I've been with Brother for about 5 years now.
Wonderful. And we always love the quilts behind your head, Jane. Speaking of quilts, yours too, Barbara. Why don't you tell everyone where you're from?
I am from the great state of New Jersey. And I've been with Brother. April this year will be 20 years. So I've kind of grown up with Brother and their machines. Started out with the 7,000 years ago. And we only had a little 4x4 hoop.
I was thinking when you were going to, I almost said, and Barbara, who's been here forever, but that sounded bad. But 20 years is amazing. Kudos to you, and we love your work as well. So today, there's been a lot of feedback with our shows, and a lot of the viewers love when we have a panel because so many of you have so many different ideas and tips. And for now, for quilting, I think some people are into quilting for garments, some for quilts that go on your bed. We're going to get into a lot of this. I think it's awesome. So Barbara, why don't we start with you? Because I love your topic of maybe, well, you don't have a favorite quilt, but let's see what we can do with the quilts, right?
Right. Well, having been with Brother for that many years, and when we started out with a little 4x4 hoop, we were so excited to get embroidering that we would put a little embroidery in the middle of a square and then make quilts from them. And I've given quilts away. A lot of the quilts that I have made, I have given to grandkids and as gifts, baby gifts, that kind of thing. And I used to, paint quilt by check, until I got to my Brother machine where I could start quilting individual pieces and do a bigger quilt on my bigger embroidery machines. But what I've enjoyed lately is actually taking some of those older quilts that I hand tied or started and lost interest in, put aside, and I'd never throw anything out. So it's bad.
I think that's par for the course for all of us.
Yeah,
Nothing goes out at all.
No. So I started to get some of those quilts out and repurpose or re-quilt them. So I love Norman Rockwell quilts, and I started to quilt this one by hand.
Oh,
can you see the hand stitching in that?
Yeah.
So then I decided to, in the background, I put it in and did some stippling in the background so that it helped the quilt. This quilt is so old. It's the old, what was the batting? Not the cotton batting, but the polyfill. So there's another one. So you just quilt around. So you put it in the hoop and you start quilting it. So now I can finish, maybe I can finish this quilt that's got to be, I don't know, 25 years old maybe.
Wow.
So, but it's a Norman Rockwell panel. And it's got all the
Look at that.
Christmas, whoops, upside down. But it's got all the Christmas things. So
Oh,
I'm
how
doing it
beautiful.
square by square and quilting it. And then I'll put it on the luminaire and do the sashing. So, I mean, it just brings an old quilt that's been hanging around in a box back to life. So the
for
other,
Barb, those hand stitching that you did on there, can you hold that up? That's absolutely gorgeous. Could you nowadays? Can you actually use the Shishiko stitches for that, or is it better? Or do you? I mean, you could probably use both, but I don't know enough about the back.
Probably.
Oh yeah, those are gorgeous.
Can you see the stitching around the outside there, but there's some stitching around the bedding too.
Right.
It's tough to see, but there is some.
Oh no, we can see it great.
Okay. Where's another one that's kind of better than that? Oh, here, this guy.
Oh yes.
See, I did some stitching around his little the bag and the pillow.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I lost interest because it took so long. And I'm always, I don't know. I've got always 6 to 10 to 20 things going at the same time, and I lose interest easy. It's the technique that I want to learn, and then when I learn it, oh, okay, go on to the next technique. I don't know. So I'm working on a quilt over here that again, the little teddy bears that we put in the middle, and then we made a quilt around it. And this one is actually tied. So this has the polyfill too, and it's actually tied. So I am working on that one. I've gotten one panel done, and I'll show you in a little bit when we change cameras. But I've actually gotten the sashing around one of the blocks, and it really looks good. It really looks.
So you're repurposing these old quilts, and you're adding our new technology with the stippling and the quilt sashing and all of that, which with a touch of a button can be.
Yeah, you just take it, into my design center. You take a picture of it, you put a background fill around it, and then you just erase out where you don't want the stitching to go, and voila, you have your block filled with decorative fill or stippling. This quilt here that I have is another one, and it's a big quilt that, you start and you say, oh boy. And this one was, a long time ago. It was one of the kits they had the pieces pre-cut, and you just sewed them together, and you bought month by month by month, and then you bought a finishing kit, whatever. But this one I have taken and I've customized with using the my design center as well to fill in the different squares that and I always move the wrong way. That
Beautiful.
help quilt this one. So this is another one I'm working on that at one point hopefully get done.
Yes. Actually I see one of the people watching, they just said, I'd love to learn how to do that. Well, actually, I think, didn't you, if I'm not mistaken, you showed this in December, didn't you?
Yes, December. And I think there was one other one earlier than that on how to use my design center to repurpose or quilt an old quilt and do around something, a design that you don't want to stitch over.
Right. So Yolanda, I think I see that you're on YouTube. When we're finished with the show, go back to the Brothers Sews. I know it's on the Brothers Sews. And if you scroll back to the episodes, just figure there's about 2 a week. So if you go back, I don't know, 10 to 12 to 16 episodes, you'll see, and it's titled with Barbara, and she shows you exactly how to do that on my design center. It was a very cool tutorial. Very cool.
We had lots of questions and answers on that one and lots of interest. Yeah.
Yes.
So some of the things that I wanted to just touch on, that, I do quilting, but it's not always a quilt. The jacket on the back of my chair,
Oh,
that was leftover pieces of a purse that I made years and years ago. So I'd already put all the pieces together. So I just fashioned it to the back of the jacket so that it fit in the panel of the jacket.
oh my gosh. Now you're speaking my language. That's
Yep.
cute.
Yep. So, and then
Wow.
the cuffs, I did the cuffs with the same kind of detail. So, and oh, the purse. This was leftover strips from when you square up your quilt. They were
Mhm.
leftover strips that I just sewed together and then used decorative stitches. But this is quilting as well.
Wow.
So it
That's
doesn't,
gorgeous.
yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be in a quilt. Okay, so quilting is a technique, and some of the things that we use are our move it foot for the luminaire, and we have a new move it foot, which is a little thinner. Whoops, I'm going to drop it. I caught it by the tail.
It looks like a mouse from over here.
So, yeah, this new move it foot is a little thinner, and you can see the size of it. It's a little smaller.
Mhm.
Really, really nice. I quilted an entire quilt that had already been bound. It was a quilt for my granddaughter and it had princesses on it. And I made it for a sample to carry. And then after I got tired of carrying it, I decided to give it to her. Well, I had only stitched in the ditch around, I don't know, maybe half of the, quilt, not every single sashing or every single piece of quilting. So I put my move it foot on and I quilted it. I stitched in the ditch around every single seam and I quilted some of it with the serpentine stitch, and there was not one pucker on the back of that quilt, and it was bound. It was
Wow.
bound. So
And Barbara, just anybody here that's watching that's like, they might not be familiar with the move it foot, but more importantly, even the move it foot, the new one, you can purchase, and you don't just have to have the luminaire. It goes with any machine that you can have the move it foot with. It has a plug in the back.
Yep. Anyone that has a plug in the back, and it's the XP series, the VM series, the BQ series, and the VQ series. So there's let's go this way. Okay.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, there, I got it. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. So, for those of you that do not have a plug-in, we do have walking feet. And something like this, where I wanted to do cross hatching.
Mm-hmm. That's cute.
There is a little attachment that goes into the normal walking foot that you can actually slide in and slide out to adjust your lines, so you can follow the previous line of stitching and just run it through. So it's really pretty easy. There's a new dynamic walking foot for those that have a low shank that comes with a couple feet, which is a really nice foot as well. It's just new on the market. I don't have one of those to show you. But also something that I use often is don't forget to change, if you can, don't forget to change your plate out when you're piecing, because you have a single hole plate. See the hole
that's
plate right there?
Mm-hmm.
That tends to make it easier when you're piecing, you chain piecing or just piecing quilting fabric.
Now that is if that's like the one tip you take away today, that's awesome. I use that plate when I'm sewing really fine fabrics. I never thought in a million years to use it when I'm doing quilting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No brainer.
Yeah, right. And we forget it's in our accessory box, or we forget that we even have it. And on the luminaire, it's easy to change out because it's one little click and the plate pops up, and then you just put the new one in. So it's easy.
Yeah.
So.
I know you still have a few more things, but this came up. Linda mentioned this, and I know other people are thinking, what if they've not watched the show before, or they're new to Brother, or maybe they don't have a machine with the move it foot. The move it foot plugs into the back of the machine, and the machine control. controls everything. I'm going to bring you back up higher because they
Okay.
want to know what's the difference between that and a walking foot.
Okay. A walking foot here, I'll show you right here, has little grippers on the bottom of the, replicates the feed dogs. Okay. So when the needle goes up and down, you can see the feet go up and down, but you're losing contact with the fabric. So for in an instant, but it doesn't, it sort of maintains contact and then lifts and the fabric goes through. So you're not always getting constant control of your fabric. This has a belt and it's similar to a differential on a serger. This belt never leaves the top of your fabric. I'm sure everybody has what a walking foot does is keep the fabric even so that when you start out at the beginning and you have even edges, that when you get to the bottom, you still have even edges. I'm sure everybody's experienced that the bottom of the two pieces of fabric, the bottom one is always shorter when you get to the bottom. This will prevent that. You can speed up this belt and you can slow it down depending on what fabric you're using. If you're using a velvet with a sateen, you might want to experiment to see what the speed of the fabric or the feed is so that you get an even feed for those two different fabrics. Sewing stripes, you'll always be able to match your stripes because you can speed up or slow down this, and you have constant contact with your fabric, and that's because it does plug into your machine.
Perfect. That's a great explanation.
Yeah, there's lots of different feet that are available for this one as well. There's a stitch in the ditch foot. There's an open toe foot. There's a quilting foot. There's a 1/4 inch foot. Lots of different feet that are available for this one.
Awesome. Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome. Okay.
All right.
Oh, you know what? Can we take a peek at the one that I was doing?
I was just going to say, I got to see what you're doing over there. This is going to be good. We can't.
Let me change up the camera. Hang on.
And for those of you wondering, what else could you possibly learn? A lot, by the way, because these other two are going to give you some more tips for utilizing your unused quilts, or maybe you have a quilt that was such a botch. We'll use that word because I have a few of those, and she's going to show you how to resurrect it.
Okay.
All right. Here we go.
So this is what I just actually stitched this morning. So this was a just the blank teddy bear in the blank piece of square. So what I did was I took it into my design center and I actually quilted around it. And I'm going to move the camera. So it's the same camera, but I'm just going to move it so that you can see the screen. And that was my screen that I used this morning. And this is the way I positioned it. I scanned it and then I did it in my design center and then took it to the embroidery side and stitched it out.
Awesome. Beautiful.
And here is, if you can see, let me get the light. Let me get a little light on the subject. There is the stitching along the sashing that I put in this particular block already. It's hard to see, but I use the sashing, the connected sashing, and stitched.
Beautiful.
And it's coming out so cute.
So, and anyone who's like, what the heck is quilt sashing? Well, you just saw that right there. And there are tutorials on the Brothers Sews. So that's really pretty. Boy, that sure makes a difference, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? For sure.
I don't know what I like better, that or the stippling you added around the bear.
I know. So anyway, all right. So let me come back to you.
Beautiful. Hey, Tanya, there are a few tutorials on the Move It foot, but you control it on the screen of your machine, by the way. That's how you control that. All right. That was very fantastic. But Barbara's not leaving because we're still chatting on all of this. Right. Kim has some fun things for us. So, Kim, why don't you take it away and show us what you're working on?
Okay. So I've got a few things These are the two I'm going to show you first are actually kind of my favorite quilts. This one goes on my bed in the summer.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it's a traditional quilt. It's called Queen Anne's lace. I did this at a like a getaway retreat with our quilt guild years and years, about 25 years ago. And it was supposed to be 2 colors. So the first one I did was a black background with a cream colored lace pattern. And then the opposite color was a cream colored background with a black lace. And I got about probably 10 blocks of that. And I said, nope, I'm done with this. So I made up a chart and I used all of my hand. Remember back in the day, we were all dyeing and painting our own fabrics.
It's on trend again, by the way.
So, well, I'm glad because I have like thousands of yards of this stuff. So we used to have the ladies come over in the garage and we'd have our buckets, in the garage, our 8 buckets, and we were cross dyeing things. It was really fun. And then I started doing the painting with the textile paints. So you can see here the difference. I love this just because I like to pet the different colors. Mm-hmm. And they're just so beautiful. They put it in a bucket with a bunch of salt, spray some water in there, let it sit. So the problem on this quilt was after I got this done with all of this hand dyed and hand painted fabric, I couldn't find anything for the borders. Commercial fabric, it was too much. A solid just looked, ugh. So I just kind of put it away for about 2 years. And then I had an extra bolt of white, just plain old white high thread count muslin. And I had some black textile paint. So I put it in a bucket, squished it all up, put it all over this white fabric, rolled it around, twisted it, put rubber bands, put some rope around it. So it was about this big log. I think there were 10 yards. And I put it out in the backyard to dry in September. In May, I had forgotten about it. And my husband was outside.
Wait. Did you just say September to May? I mean, my calendar, that'd be a long,
it was a long time. I forgot about it because the quilt was folded up. You know how you put them in a pile and forget about them. So my husband was outside cleaning up where we have our firewood. And he's cleaning the yard, getting the dead sticks and raking up the leaves and stuff. And he brings this thing in that had blown against the back fence. And it was frozen solid. And he thought it was a log. And he said, there were worms on it. And he said, this looks like something you might have left outside. I was appalled, like, what is that? I went, oh, wait, I know exactly what that is. So I unrolled it, rinsed out the worms, threw it in the washing machine. And look at this.
You've got to be kidding me. It's gorgeous.
Isn't it great?
So
I love it. So of all things, that kind of made the quilt. And the funny little addition to that was my friend and I were invited to participate in Quilters of Ohio at the Ohio State Fair. So my friend Julie and I went down to Columbus and we're looking at our quilts in this big Ohio exhibit. And a lady that was standing near us looking at this quilt with her friend, the lady said, oh, I wonder where they got that fabric for the border. It's so unusual. And the other woman said, oh, well, that's a very scientific process.
It's scientific, all right.
You to tell her how you did it. I was like, no, I'm not telling her. So this ended up being a really fun. I love this quilt. It's lightweight. It was machine quilted, not by me. But the other thing too is if you have extra pieces, use them for your labels.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Put them on the back, and I've got everybody's name on here that participated in the quilt, the quilter, the designer, the teacher, and the year and all that. Okay, so this one.
I'm still going to, when I see that quilt next time, if I ever visit your house or on live show, I'm going to be looking for all the worm marks.
No, I got them out. They were okay.
But it might be a really cool dye thing in there.
It might be awesome. But so anyway, I got very ambitious. We got a new dining room set, and I was going to make big placemats and do little appliques on the side for the forks and knives and spoons, And I did not have an embroidery machine yet. I wasn't working for Brother. So I started making placemats.
Ooh.
And then I put them on my table, and they were so big that it was just ridiculous. So I decided but I had about 15 of them. So I decided just to use them on a quilt. So I made a quilt.
I'm allowed to laugh about this, right? I'm just dying over here.
And no, these are rubber stamps.
Oh my God.
Which way am I going again, Barbara?
Yeah, I know.
I've got the Barbara problem. So I used rubber stamps, and I did the rubber stamped words.
Oh, that's cool.
And today I would be doing 100%. I would be embroidering all of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just the story of the quilt. And this hung in my family room for years. Here's the big sleeve on the back. But the big story on this quilt was it was going to a show. And I called my checkbook quilter, and I said, this thing is huge. It's like bigger than king size. And I said, how far back are you, like quilting? And she said, oh, I'm months. I said, oh my God, I've got this quilt. And she said, listen, if you can get it here by tonight, like in 2 hours, I can start it and I can finish it because this other lady's, how schedules work. I said, I'll be there. So on the back, I had to throw my back together real quick. And this quilt is called Really, Really Broken Dishes. So I had a rubber stamp. It says, when life gives you broken dishes, use paper plates. The party must go on. And I had extra blocks to put on the back. So I appliqued this onto the back of the, the backing. And as I was cutting away the excess fabric behind, because I'm also cheap, so I want to save this big chunk, I accidentally cut through. So,
oh no, to the right side.
So then I had a big cut in the backing fabric.
Oh no.
So I made this Band-Aid.
Can you guys see that? That's hilarious.
So I didn't want it to be offensive, but
I just read it.
So if there was ever a moment for that was it. It's like, fine, I'm just going to make a Band-Aid. I'm going to applique the Band-Aid over, cover up the hole, done. So I'm just going to wait for the comments on the Facebook and YouTube. I would love to know by everybody watching here. Like, this is hilarious, but to save, we're all going to have Band-Aids on our garments, especially when you have pockets by your pants that you accidentally cut through in the arm. I want to know how many people here would have loved that Band-Aid idea to save your outfit or your quilt or anything. That is hilarious. Well, you do what you have to do,
Right. Where there's a will, there's a way.
One.
Yes.
I bought these little hand-drawn quilt blocks, and you're supposed to hand embroider them. And this is before I had an embroidery machine, and I pictured cozy evenings sitting in the hotel room with my little embroidery, hoop, and I was going to embroider 12 blocks, put them together, make a nice little quilt. It was going to be in black and white with red. Well, that, as Barbara knows, this is never happening.
No.
Never. So once I started working with the Brother machines and I got my first dream machine, I thought, oh, here we go.
That's why we never throw anything out.
Right.
Look at that.
So I never got my hand embroidered snowman quilt, but I did get it this far.
Wow.
And
great.
now I don't know if you can see, but some of these are actually quilted.
Yeah.
They're gorgeous.
So, I mean, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And it was really cute on one of them. It's the snowman going down the hill on a sled here. This one.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
My granddaughter wanted that for her skate bag. But instead of quilt shop, she wanted rink on there. So I was able to scan it in, as a drawing, use the eraser and erase the word rink, and write in with a pencil. I could write the word rink on it. And then she said, I don't know if you can see the bunny down here. She said, can you remove the bunny poo? Like right there. I said, well, I don't see any bunny poo, honey. And she said, no, right there. It's the bunny poo. I think those are bunny footprints. So I could erase the bunny poo for her also to put this on her skate bag. So, so this saved me. This is a quilt that never would have been.
Everybody's like, Kim, you'd be the best friend in the world, Lorraine said. Can you imagine what a great best friend she would be? You are.
So this is my last one. So I have two. We'll see how our time goes. So when I was teaching, I had a lot of samples. And, you have to have step out. So I had them in all these different stages of being finished. And when you stop teaching the class, you've got all this stuff. So I decided to put them all together. And I was able to put this. This was a sample that had no meaning. It was just a technique sample, basically. And I put this together and added the turtles. So this is for my son. He's moving into his first house. And this is for him. He has his turtle, and he's a fisherman and a hunter. And so that's what we did with that one.
Does he have a real turtle?
Pardon me?
Does he have a real turtle or the turtle on your quilt?
No, he has a real turtle that he got years ago. Is this big? And now it's this big. And his aquarium is
that you buy as a parent, and you're like a monkey that like lives longer, or a parrot that lives longer than you ever will.
Right. We had a snake like that too.
Yeah.
So
I love that quilt. It's gorgeous.
So here's the other thing. This was another sample. I used this for a technique class. This was a quilt. I used just the quilt top as a technique, and then we have the dream fabric frame for when I was showing that, and I used this as a sample to quilt the fabric frame. And when I was done with it, I realized I'm not going to be using this anymore, so I made it into this little guy.
Oh, it's so cute.
Isn't it cute?
Oh my God.
And
the nephews would love that.
also I had a little oh crap moment. I was trimming. Can you see right here?
Oh no, you have another Band-Aid.
So I put a little charm there that says handmade with love right on his bum. Cover up where the little clip is.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Kim, I'm like, this is hilarious. I'm dying here. You have to give us a little warning. You all know this is live, so we never know what's going to come out of anybody's mouth. But Kim, you take the cake today, because that Band-Aid and the Made with Love is going to be going in everybody's little.
Well, I think my point is, don't panic. It's okay. I've seen some beautiful quilts, and it's like, what made you put those cranes flying across the moon like that? I'll tell you what happened. And it was a terrible thing that happened. And then they had, you add something, you change something up, and it's like, oh, that just made it brilliant. So don't panic. Just put it aside. Think about it. Pull it out later. It'll be fun.
Or just wrap it up in a bunch of dye and leave it outside for 9 months. It'll turn out fabulous.
Exactly. I know, right? And everybody will think you're a genius.
Everybody here say you're just making everybody just die laughing. We forgot to give the warning. Make sure you use the bathroom before watching this show, because you will laugh way too hard. Awesome. Hey, that donkey or whatever that thing is.
Yes, it's a horse.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a horse. Can you hold that thing up one more time where you accidentally did your uh-oh moment?
So I'm sorry, say that again.
The uh-oh moment that you have the little label. Can you hold that up one more time? Your little
on the horse?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There
There you go. There's the tag. Just in case somebody wanted to see it. That's so funny. I love it.
It's a commercial pattern, and you just use your quilt top like yardage.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That would be a great gift idea too. So cute. Oh my gosh. Jane, I'm a little worried. I can't even imagine how this is going to go.
Oh, that is too funny. I love it. I love that you can take your oops moments and make them just into a better quilt. I kind of have a similar oops moment when I realized I didn't have enough fabric for my border.
Oh.
So I added,
That's
this
a good
is a
idea.
quilt for my granddaughter, and I started collecting fabric for this, my girlfriend and I, like 20 years ago. So I don't even know what number this is of the quilt of this style that I've done. But and sometimes I go a little bit bigger. It's like, this is crib size, but crib size to me is like bigger. You want it to drape, you want it to go over the kid, you want, lots of extra to snuggle with. So I always make them oversized, it seems like. And yes, I miscalculated. So I had enough fabric to go from here to here, and then I had to figure out what to do here. So I ended up putting her name on the border of the quilt. And then this is the other side. So the reason why this is one of my favorite is because it's I Spy, right? For the child, it's just fun. And it's one that even a beginner quilter can quilt this. And I quilted this using the Move It foot, like Barb showed. And what's nice is once you stitch in the ditch, going this way and this way, then the back of it boop, is a star.
Oh, that's pretty.
Right. So it's kind of a pretty quilting design on the back. So what I wanted to show with this quilt is how you can use the ScanNCut with it. So here's my mat, and you can cut out, because you can scan your fabric. You can see where your picture is that you want to cut out, and then you have your pieces. And what's nice about that is that you can use a template, and that's how you would mostly do it. You would set your fabric on your cutting mat and use a rotary and go around it. But I find that it's difficult for me to hold it and then go around and then try to shift and go around. So I feel like the ScanNCut is really helpful for just scanning your fabric in, and then bring in your shape, put it on the top of it, and then cut out your fabric. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry for that. Hey, Jane, quick question for you though, because I know this is going to come up, and a lot of people here have the ScanNCut, and so I know they're going to say it looks like you had the fabric mat. Did you treat the fabric at all before you cut it, and did you put a backing on? Which with the fabric mat you wouldn't, but if you want to just talk about that for a second, that'd be great.
Sure. I did not. I didn't even starch it. I just laid it right onto the mat, and then just cut it.
Okay.
So I didn't starch it at all. I used the cutting blade that matches the mat. And I didn't even starch it. I just put it on there. I probably should have, but it worked great. So one of the things that I was gonna talk about too is the fabric selection for it is really fun. Like, I've been collecting with a girlfriend for over 20 years doing this, and it's just fun to go into a store and find the fabrics. And one thing that you might want to do if you decide to do this, or even do it with a girlfriend or a group, right, is to have a template that's cut the size that you want, and then you can carry this around with you so that when you're in the store, you can see if that size is going to work for that, you know, and how many, you know, characters you can get out of your fabric.
Now that's a good idea.
Yeah, just stick your template in your purse, and then when you're out shopping, then you'll have the size, because sometimes you're like, you find the fabric, you know, I don't know if that's gonna be too big of a picture to fit in that. So if you have a template stuck in your purse, then you'll know. And you're collecting over time, right? And so it's, you know, you're not gonna do this overnight. Well, I suppose you could, but so the other thing I wanted to show is that it may look complicated for a quilt, but it isn't. So you're taking your piece and you have your two tails on it, and then you're lining this up. I say it like this. So then you have long strips of this that you're sewing together. So everything is kind of strips, right? So it makes it, I think a beginner could do this quilt if they chose to. It would, you know, the only part would be maybe the corners or something that might be a little difficult. The other one that I wanted to show was, Barb was talking about the Move It foot. I did this one.
Ooh.
Using the Move It foot, and it's chenille. And I really like the drape of it, and I think it's cuddly. So you can get, this is 4 panels. You want 4 panels plus a backing. So you'll cut through the top. Once you do sew your strips, you'll cut through the top 3 using your scissors and cut through in the channels where you stitched. That makes sense. So it's sewn in channels, and then in that channel you'll cut your fabric, which gives it, you know, that little ruffly look of layered.
That's cute.
It is cute.
Yeah.
And that
this is
guide,
a smaller size. Yeah. The other panels are bigger, and the grandbaby has that one. I don't have a lot of the quilts that I've made because as soon as they're done, they're out the door, right?
So just a couple quick questions here before you keep going on the ScanNCut. Well, first off, somebody said they had no idea that the blade color matched the mat. So that's like a light bulb moment. And I see some of you writing your worst mistakes. Keep those coming, because I love sitting at night reading all of your comments after the show too. But Marcia wanted to double check. That was the fabric mat you held up, correct, Jane?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Okay,
it is.
There was one more thing about, and this is a good question. Sherry wanted to know, did you add the seam allowances on the ScanNCut or just make your shape bigger? What did you end up doing with that?
The shape is the size of the template. Like if you purchased a template that you was going to use, plus when you're using it, for me, it seems to slide a little bit, and you want to try to be as accurate as you can. The more accurate you can be making your quilts, the better it is when you're stitching, when you're sewing all these pieces together, that all those pieces are going to match up. So the more accurate you can be, the better. So I just did it. What I actually did is, some of these pieces were from years ago, right? So I took the piece, I scanned it on the mat, I brought in the shape from the built-in shapes on the ScanNCut. I brought it in and I put it over the piece of fabric, and I'm like, oh, that's the size that I need, because I've lost the template. I don't know where it is. So I just use the ScanNCut now. So it's perfect, you know, and then I don't have to worry about trying to get around all those angles.
Exactly. Yeah. Is that octagon? Someone asked, is that octagon quilt? Does it have a name? Elizabeth,
it's a hexagon, and I caught it I Spy. So maybe just search for an I Spy, using the hexagon.
There you go.
Yeah,
Marcia has another question for you. So Jane, you've showed so many different things that people are like, wait, the chenille, that's like the comments just scrolling through here.
Yeah.
Is the chenille a print fabric? If so, did you use 4 layers of the print lined up? How did you do that?
Okay, so yes, it's they're panels, and you buy 4 panels. You stack them on top of each other, and wherever it comes together, let's just use this Mickey maybe. So wherever on your panel, you'll want to pick a point, and that's where you're going to want, like at the end of his tail, right? That's a point that you can match on each of the layers. So then you'll take your pin and pin through on that, exactly on that point through all those layers, and then you just pin it together. So go through like left to right or something like that, and just pick a point on all those layers that you're going to match through the layers, and then pin it. And then you will draw one, line diagonally across the top of it. So that gives you your base. And then I use the projection line in the machine, stitched the first one, and then just used it an inch wide to the next one, and you just quilt it like that with your oops, wrong one, with your backing too, right? So you're going to have your backing, you're going to have your 4 tops, and then you're going to put your backing on, and then you're going to sew through.
Okay. And Lorraine just said, are those cotton? Is it cotton fabric, or what kind of fabric is it?
It is cotton. Yep, 100% cotton. You can probably search for this panel that has it in a blue color too. But perfect. You don't have to do a little lamb. You can do other panels, floral, as long as you have a pretty design that you like. My daughter-in-law likes lambs, and that's kind of why it ended up being a little lamby, but
it sure is cute.
Okay, one of the other things I wanted to mention is the My Connection that talks from the Luminaire to the ScanNCut. So this font here is built into the machine. So I spelt it out in the machine, sent it over to the ScanNCut, and then the ScanNCut cut my letters out for me, and then I brought it back over to the machine and then appliqued it.
Oh, so that's why it looks so good on there.
Yeah, so I was gonna, here it is as an embroidery, that same font, whoop whoop. That's all right. But that's the same font, and then I took it and made an applique out of that same font and sent it over to the machine. Right. So there's the E.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Great idea and great save.
Yes, yes. It was a nail biting moment, because I was like, I already had cut my binding prior, so I had enough binding, and then I was like, now what? I don't have enough border. Yeah. I don't know. I thought that I could cut the binding, I could set that aside, and then whatever I had left over, I would cut, and that could be the width of the border. I was just gonna wing it. And yeah, my math's not so good.
Hey, a couple more questions on the chenille. Linda wants to know, was the sheep quilt pieced first, or was it printed? With the sheep, how did you get that sheep on there? It was the pattern, wasn't it?
Yes, it's a pattern that's on the panel. Okay. So you would buy 4 of the panels and then stack them, iron them, stack them, and then put a pin through on each of those particular points so that they get lined up all the way through.
And then are you cutting just the top 3 layers, right?
And then cut only the top 3.
There you go. I'll bring that.
So
Bring that
for
back.
this one, what I did is this is closer. This is like a 1/2 inch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right here. So, but I didn't want it to be quilted a 1/2 inch. So this is 1 inch.
Okay.
So what I did is I took only the 4 panels stacked that have all these pins in it all over, and then I had a diagonal line I went through, and then I had the laser beam on so that I would follow that one that I line, because I didn't want to draw all those lines, right? I just used the projection line on the sewing machine and followed the first line. And then once I had 1 inch done all across it, then I put the backing on and then stitched in between them so that the backing is 1 inch, the top is every 1/2 inch. Is that making sense?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I just didn't want it to be too heavily quilted. You know, I still wanted to have a nice drape. So
Perfect. Absolutely beautiful. I'm reading everyone's comments here. They're loving all the inspiration. They're loving the mistakes, which they're calling design elements now, which is, of course, they are.
I like that.
And I love the part where it doesn't have to be a quilt, and it could be a garment or a donkey or a horse.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Well, Angela,
Yeah,
go
Kim.
ahead, Tim.
well, just along those same lines, doing stuff like this, you know, sometimes, like Barbara said, when you do a quilt and you do 3 or 4 blocks and you say, okay, I got it, I'm ready to move on. So you have all these random orphan blocks too. You can sew those all together and quilt them willy-nilly using your walking foot, whatever, because it doesn't matter.
Mm-mm.
And then once you have a big enough piece, you can make a big cuddly teddy bear. You can do all that stuff with all your orphan blocks too. So that's not lost to you.
And we used to test when we first started, because you never knew whether the embroidery design that you bought or one that you maybe digitized. We had a handheld scanner in the beginning with Brother years and years ago, and you had to test the embroidery. So I used to give those to the nursing homes, and the ladies would make them into pot holders or whatever. But that would be a great idea, just to have your orphan blocks into your own little quilt, you know.
Right.
It's like
I mean,
a
you can make
t-shirt quilt.
some of those big teddy bear things.
Yeah.
There's one teddy bear pattern that's only 2 pieces. It's great. It's perfect.
Yep.
So, I mean, I save everything, of course.
So do I.
And
It's
the
bad.
other thing, Jane, with the ScanNCut too, with your little I Spy blocks, I love the ScanNCut because you can put like 5 or 6 different fabrics on there and bring your shape in and
All out.
Kind of at the same
scan your
time.
mat, and you'll be able
Yeah.
to see all the different fabrics and put your template right over your design. And I mean,
Yeah,
to me,
and-
it
and if
takes
you're
away that whole meticulous thing.
And if you're sharing with someone,
Mhm.
you can like cut a whole bunch from, because normally when I buy fabric, I buy like a 1/4 of a yard or 1/3 of a yard, depending on the size of the whatever I want to cut out, right?
Yeah.
So if you're sharing with someone, cut out like 6 or 8 of them, you know, or you could do that for yourself, set it aside, and then when you have I think it takes 122 of the different blocks for each quilt. So once you have that many, you know, set it aside. You always have a go-to baby quilt right there. You know, just pick out 122 and then stitch it together, and then keep collecting, keep putting them in your stash.
Right, exactly.
That's part of the fun of it, really, is collecting all the fabric, right?
Yeah, 2 things. You can also cut your triangle pieces on the ScanNCut really easy.
True.
So
Yes.
that's a no-brainer.
Yes.
And secondly, Kim did a whole thing on chenille a while back, so she can. There's more detailed instruction on, right, Kim?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, I think, in the fall, was it, Angela?
Yeah, I think so.
I
Yeah.
think so too.
No,
And
it was in summer. It was last summer.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
so you'll have to just go back. Like you might binge watch for. We have hundreds. Let's see, we're on episode 252, and we didn't start adding numbers until after we went through like 300. So you could binge watch for a long time. Just don't be judgmental. They're all live. But it was a great episode. Oh, let me see you. I'm sorry, Jane. Go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. I was just going to say, this is chenille right here too. So I just made chenille. I just took and layered some fabric and then used that to do it, to make an applique.
That's awesome. Everybody's saying great ideas. I see somebody asking about the ScanNCut. Two things. One, when you go to your ScanNCut, look inside of it because it has built-in quilt designs, which is awesome. So if you're new and you're like, wait, I want to cut this, I have no idea how to do this, you can cut your quilt designs. You can tell it what seam allowance. We have episodes on that. And to give you a little hint, on Tuesday, Cindy Hogan's coming on. She created a quilt design that any of you will be able to use. You have to wait till Tuesday. And we came up with a little challenge, including myself. You know how much I enjoy quilting, or not. But I'm going to, because I thought of a really cool thing to add to a garment. So that's coming up on Tuesday. But also I see somebody asking about the ScanNCut, talking to different machines. It's the Luminaire and the new ScanNCut. Those are the two that talk to each other right now. So
Yeah, my connection.
My connection. And so it does not work on some of those older models that many of you are mentioning. But you can always call your brother dealer too.
Right. Or you have to go back to the old way of doing a USB stick.
Yeah, which is no big deal. Half the time I end up doing that anyways because I forget.
No.
All right. Any other questions for these ladies? This has been such a great informational show. Fun, actually funny too.
Good.
There was a tip I wanted to give to the ladies too that are new at quilting, or even maybe some of the older ones, maybe they just haven't done it. But I like to take the pinking shears, and if I have yardage of fabric that I'm going to be laundering, just take the pinking shears and cut the edges so that you don't have as much strings and entanglement at the end. It just, and then Barb, when we was talking about this, she suggested you could always put it on your serger and just serge that the end of it, and then that way it's not unraveling in your washing machine.
Right. Another tip for the chenille: when you throw it in the washer, after you cut all that stuff and you fuzz it up, there's a lot of lint. So just be prepared.
Take it to a commercial one.
Commercial, yeah.
Yeah, clean out your dryer vent a lot.
I was just going to say,
For sure.
Hey, Wynn just walked in. I don't know about any of you with your husbands or significant others, but he never cleans out the lint and he knows it. And I'll go in there and he's like, the dryer's not working. Well, the lint's this thick. So I'm going to tell him if I use, I'll just do the chenille myself.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Yeah. But there is a brush. Use a whisk brush or something to fuzz it up before you wash it. It'll take some of it off, and then you can wash it and fluff it.
And also make sure that you clean out your bobbin case regularly.
Oh, yeah.
Nail too. Especially like when I was doing it on the flannel. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, homespun is another one that is really good to chenille.
It's a lot of lint.
Yeah, a lot of lint. Yeah.
Okay, Lorraine wants to know, did you use the fabric blade, rotary blade? You could actually use either, but.
I actually use the fabric blade with the fabric mat.
There you go.
This combination.
Yeah, they've improved the fabric mat. No longer do you have to put the sheet down, the fabric, what do they call it? The fabric adhesive sheet. The new mat now comes so that you can cut fabric a little easier. There's other ways. If you have an older machine, you can use your starching, or you can put one of the adhesive iron-on backings to it. It helps. But the new mats are great. They they cut like butter. The fabric sticks to them, and there's no issue.
I just read a comment that someone says lint is great for starting fires when you're camping.
Oh,
Yeah, if you take your old toilet paper roll and then stuff it with the lint, it's perfect for camping.
Are you serious?
I've got a Ziploc bag full of them. I staple the end of the tube and then stuff the lint in and put it in a Ziploc bag, and it's now with the camping stuff.
Yeah, it's perfect.
not only did you get sewing tips, but you got camping
camping
tips.
tips.
So when we go to the cottage this weekend, I'm going to be like, hey, Wynn, I'll start the fire. I've got it. And
I've got it.
I'm nuts. And I'm going to blame it on all of you. Disclaimer. Brother products do not start fires.
No.
Hey, Myrta says, could we have a show on how to use the USB for applique and machine with ScanNCut? Well, we have shows on how to use your USB stick back and forth, but what the new My Connection does is a little bit different. They talk to each other directly, and you can take any embroidery design, almost any, not all of them, and take it to the ScanNCut. So it's a little more detailed than that. But if you leave a comment of, maybe we'll put that in our list of shows coming up.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody's saying, one last thing, not fire related, but for those, I see a lot of people saying my mat's dull. How do you clean my mat? Use the ScanNCut. I don't know if I like my mat. Well, there are different mats, first of all, and you have some that probably came with your ScanNCut. It should have at least, and then you can buy additional mats. But with the new auto blade, number one, you're highly unlikely to cut through the mat. Yes. Two, anybody have tips? I use a baby wipe for cleaning my mat. Anybody else have any other tips?
Yeah, that's what I use as a baby wipe.
Pretty much what I use too.
Yeah, me too.
With no alcohol on it.
No alcohol. Right.
And save your old mats when you're going to use real linty stuff. Like if you're going to be cutting felt or fleece or something, just save your old mats for that. You know, don't use a brand new nice sticky mat. Yeah, I save the old ones for the linty stuff.
You can tape down the edges if you have something that might move. Just be careful, because you want to make sure that tape is really down so it doesn't get on your roller.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, the mats are disposable items. The blades are disposable items. It is just part of the how much you cut, what you're cutting. If you're cutting glitter paper, you're gonna run out of that needle's gonna get a hole, or that blade's gonna get dull real fast. If you're alternating between paper and fabric, I would have two blades, one for paper and then one for fabric. Specifically, I wrote it on the little front of the holder. I had an extra holder, and I wrote fabric on the one, so I knew that was the only one that I cut fabric with. So it's like your scissors. Don't cut paper with your sewing scissors.
Absolutely. Great tip. Well, this has been such a wonderful show. Brother Sewing fans, we are so grateful you're here. And if you're watching the replay, which I know many of you do, be sure to leave a comment what your biggest faux pas has been quilting, or what your favorite part of the show is, because we always go back and read the comments, and we love that. So I want that donkey. I want to send that to my cousin. My little nieces and nephews are going to love that. I'm sorry, it's a horse.
Pony. Halfway in between.
Halfway in between. Darlene, I see you asking about my top. I am preparing for the next Fashion Sewing Club. It's pinned right now. I was working on it. I almost had it on before the show, but maybe next week. So, ladies, this has been absolutely fantastic. Quilting tips for National Quilting Month, which we can never forget. And just so you all remember, Tuesday, there will be a quilt design that Cindy designed using Brother software. She's going to show you how to sew it and how to piece it together, how to cut it on your ScanNCut. And then just to give you a little hint, Jerry's coming up, and I don't think you ladies have seen what he did yet with his. We all had a challenge of what to do with this little block, and he had something to do with tennis. Totally blew me away. I had no idea that was coming. So we kicked this quilting off with some great tips for all of you. I've learned so much just from all of you, and I know everybody else has, and I'm very excited. So when I screw it up, I'm going to say when, because I'm sure I will, or I put it together and I'm like, I don't like this, I could always do a little hot pad.
Yeah. Or just set it aside and just have a think about it and then go back to it in a month or so.
Yeah, I'll send it to Kim. She can take it, put it outside till May.
Right.
Yeah, for 9 months.
All right, Kim, Barbara, Jane, thank you so much. Brothers, thank you for letting your educators and brand ambassadors take over your page. We love giving our tips. And if you'd like to visit your brother dealer, it's right below. That's where you find the blog as well, which will be on Tuesday. And if you're sewing anything fabulous, I put the hashtags right above Barbara's head there. Hashtag Brother Sews and hashtag Brother ScanNCut. Share what you're doing. We love it. All right, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
I'm afraid I have a confession to make. I'm actually here undercover. March, now. I came to Quilt Club to gain the knowledge and insight to help build the best collection of quilting machines Brothers made. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you I was undercover. Can you find it in your hearts to forgive me? Let's quilt.